remember seeing Encino Man when it came out. I was maybe 10 years old, I guess you could say. I was pretty close to the age you're supposed to be to enjoy this movie, and even back then, I kinda remember it being pretty bad. Like, I don't remember hating it, I watched it all the way through, but I just kinda knew this was not, it just wasn't good. But okay, it's been over 30 years, and like many, I have nostalgia for the 80s and 90s, and I was kind of looking forward to seeing this again because I thought maybe it'd be like Saved by the Bell, where, yeah, I know it's not technically good, but there's just gonna be something fun and outrageous about how 90s it is, and how dated it is, and how wild and weird it is, and yeah, no, this isn't even a so bad it's good movie, it's just bad. Silly, dumb, and lame, and none of it in a fun way. Sean Astin plays a dork named Dave. His best friend, played by Pauly Shore, who you'll never guess what his name is, Tunney, yeah, I'm just assuming they cast him in this part before they wrote him, have the extremely important mission of digging up a pool in the backyard, somehow getting okayed from their mom and dad because, well, all through high school they've been losers, and maybe on prom night they can turn it all around and be the most popular kids in school. By God, 90s problems. No, really, even by 90s problems, this is incredibly shallow. While digging, they of course discover a frozen caveman who they try to thaw out, revealing Brendan Fraser playing a role that, let's face it, he'll be playing for the good part of a decade. Rather than being concerned for his well-being or handing him over to someone that can really help out, they decide they can use him to get really popular in school, and hey, maybe they can have that pool party on prom night, and maybe Dave can get with that girl who's just as shallow and empty as he is. Okay, so I'm not gonna bring much logic into this movie. I think everybody knows you're not supposed to. It's a cute idea of what would happen if a cave teen just happened to roam around modern day school. And let's be honest, everybody who hears the synopsis, watches the commercial, sees the posters, knows this is not gonna be a good movie. We're not gonna learn any life lessons or have any deep commentary. This is just supposed to be entertaining, whether it's legitimately entertaining and legitimately funny, or ironically entertaining and ironically funny, like it's so bad it's good, you know, that kind of thing. No one's gonna be too picky about this movie, and even by that low bar, this movie is so dull. This is not a particularly long film, only an hour and a half, but it feels like 3 hours, man. Like, I am just watching nothing happen in front of me. First off, like I mentioned before, every character in this is empty and soulless. And again, that would be fine if they actually made it funny, but they don't give them any funny lines. Sean Astin's a great actor. We've seen him in Rudy and Lord of the Rings. We know what he can do, but he just looks terminally lost here. Like the script gave him nothing to work with, and I think even he knows what his goal is in this is so lame and so dumb and so unbelievably not interesting that he's just trying to figure out, so am I a jerk? Am I a good guy? Am I somewhere in between? Am I gonna learn something? He just clearly has no idea what reaction or thought process he's supposed to have to anything. Pauly Shore at least has an idea of what he is in this movie. It's just not a good idea. He's about as annoying as he usually is. The only one who gets out of this a little okay is Brendan Fraser. He is just so charming, and like I said, he can play this role in his sleep. He does half the time. He's the wide-eyed, good-looking doofus who doesn't really understand how the world works, but his naivete surprisingly kinda helps him out, winning everybody over. And yes, there are a few jokes that work. Like, I really like when he sees the mailman dropping off a package and he grabs it, and rather than looking at the package, he looks at the string that wrapped it up. That's pretty good. I like when the school bully is pointing at him trying to expose him as a caveman, he just kinda grabs his finger. That somehow is believable. I don't know. Somehow he always makes these roles work okay. But even in that realm that they created for him, it isn't very interesting, because what do they write for him in this? They take him someplace that he's never seen before and he gives a wow face. That's it. They take him to a convenience store. He does the wow face and it's over. They take him on a roller coaster. He does the wow face and it's over. He's introduced to a future Oscar winner who's gonna win an Oscar the same year he does. He does the wow face and that's it. Nothing happens in this movie, and that is baffling to me. I thought of other high school movies where something kind of supernatural is brought in that would actually be even more challenging to work with, like Turning Red or Teen Wolf, or something where they turn into some kind of creature and then you have to figure out how to work that into the story, how to make it interesting. Is really a giant red panda that interesting to turn into? Is, when you really think about it, turning into a werewolf that interesting in high school? I feel like at the most you can get 2 or 3 jokes out of that, but they worked with it spectacularly in Teen Wolf. These should be the easiest scenarios to write for a caveman in modern day high school. It practically writes itself. And almost amazingly, nothing happens. I was blown away by how dull this was. Even the 90s cliches, 30 years old. Oh my god, can they say that? Can they do that? I mean, once in a while there's a scene like that, but every scene it feels like these people just got together. They said, okay, let's just shoot this and go home, and no passion was put into anything. Again, apart from the little charm that Brendan Fraser brings to it. I don't know, I consider myself a pretty big fan of 90s nostalgia, especially the early 90s, and I just got no entertainment value from this. It's bad, and it's the worst kind of bad. Boring bad. I'm sure there's people have nostalgia for this movie and maybe watch it and think back to happier times, simpler times. I mean, like I said, the main dilemma the lead has in this is pretty lame. Oh, by the way, did I tell you that he wants to ask the popular girl out only because she is popular now? Like, they used to be friends, and he was like, oh, but she was like so invisible and everything, but now she's hot. Like, everything about this guy is awful. All these characters are awful. But they're not a fun kind of awful. Like the Always Sunny in Philadelphia type awful characters. Like, you like watching them. These guys, I just don't like watching. They are so uninteresting, so bland, and also not good people. If you got a soft spot for it, fair enough, but I think you gotta put this caveman back on ice.